Welcome back to Two Frat Boys, the podcast, as my daughter is giggling and laughing while I record. Um, we are at year 2003, in which we were big. We weren't as busy as in 2002, where we did about, 10 shows, I think, or something like that, Jesus. Um, but we did about 6 shows, and we were doing it, nationally, in a sense. So we went to Houston. So 2003, we went to Houston in February. Then we go to Chicago. Then Chicago we did in March. So we left a month in between, Feb to March, Chicago. Then we went to Albany, the capital of New York State. In April, we have Silk 2, which ends up, as we mentioned earlier, Silk happened to be a thing we just pulled out of the air, and ends up, being a big portion of our event business. And then in June, then June we do Silk 2, and then July we do the National Latino Step Finals, so we basically, Houston was a qualifying event, show for July. Chicago ended up being a qualifying event as well, and as Albany.
So just to my name is Jesus Diaz, and just to kind of frame up what Anthony mentioned earlier, the first year that we had just been acquired in 2002 by an events business, and they wanted to further expand upon what we were doing. Anthony and I struggled and resisted a bit because it was diluting. We didn't want to do too many events, because the market was still brand new and growing. And if you don't have enough teams, you're going to have bad shows. And so it was an internal struggle to make sure that we didn't dilute the brand, but also we knew and understood the reality that, okay, now we were a part of this company and we had to help it grow. So as Anthony mentioned, we continued the ambitious national tournament. We changed the markets. So like the year before, we had gone Miami, Chicago, New York. And as Anthony mentioned, this year we went Houston, Chicago, Albany, New York. So it was an ambitious year ahead. And I think we really got rolling. And Anthony, you did a lot of the work on that Houston show. Can you talk about the venue or the teams or what you recall from that event?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, before I go to Houston, like you said, we started doing so many shows, and we quickly realized that the bandwidth is limited, because it was basically one team per organization, and we were asking them to do shows in Houston, Chicago, and Albany. And at the time, in 2003, like, the best teams for each org depended in what region. So for the Northeast orgs, a lot of them were here in New York, New Jersey. But then in Texas, it's like the best teams are in Texas, I guess. Like, for Sigma and Beta, let's say an example, their Florida team, their Florida State University team, won our Miami show versus Lambda Sigma Upsilon and Lambda Upsilon Lambda. So would you agree then, Jesus, that I guess Sigma and Beta's best team was in Florida and not Houston?
Yeah, and I think that's fair to say. And like you said, every region had its own, like, one or two good teams, but then that meant you had to fly in 5 or 6 if you were going to do a legitimate show.
Right, and that's expensive. So teams aren't, these college teams don't have the money to be flying. They would fly if you could. So basically, we were realizing, like Jesus mentioned, that we're asking a lot of these teams because it's the one team that does probably the strolling and the stepping. And then in New York, we were doing our Silk Stroll show in June, and then 2 months later, we're doing a national championship in stepping. And a lot of the times, it was the same team that was practicing both for stepping and the strolling. So that was, like Jesus mentioned, we were having struggles because we realized that once we got acquired, the bigger part of our business needed to, like, crank up these shows, because we were doing the Ay Caramba college tour, we were doing the 101 Latino college tour, doing all these college tours. You wanted to say something, Aziz? Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So let's start in Houston. So Houston, we were at the Roxy nightclub. I wonder if the Roxy is still open. If anyone knows if it's open, please shoot us on our YouTube channel. Please drop a comment. The Roxy nightclub. So here are the participating teams. We had Alpha Psi Lambda, which is a co-ed organization. Am I right? Yes. Alpha Psi Lambda. And we put them, so I remember with Alpha Psi Lambda, the struggle we had was like, they have boys and girls. We didn't know what category to put them in, the girls or the women. And I think we ended up deciding that, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we needed more fraternity. So I think we dropped them into that category.
But also, I feel like that is the right, like if you're going to be co-ed, then you should put them in the harder bracket, in the harder kind of section of not that, that's, I don't even know if that's accurate, harder, because the sororities are probably more competitive than the fraternities. But in terms of gender, balancing out the gender, I think if you have a co-ed team, it's not, I guess what I'm thinking, it's not fair for a man to go up against a woman if you're judging them on stepping. Like that's not an equal kind of, you can't, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we didn't have at that time those type of considerations. Like it was more of like, okay, we need an extra fraternity, let's move them over here. Like, but yeah, it could have totally, in this day and age, it could have totally become that what you're describing.
Right. No, okay, right. So all right, Alpha Psi Lambda, we put them on the frat side. Omega Delta Phi, which I think we discovered them at a Latino Greeks show, right?
Yeah, Frank knew them actually. Mm-hmm.
And I was blown away when I saw their routine because they were like legitimate, official. Should we show their clip now or later?
Go for it. Yeah, bring them on.
All right, so we're going to show a very pixelated, unfortunate video of Omega Delta Phi. And this is basically this was their kind of routine that they did at shows. You'll notice that their cadence and in terms of their like beats and synchronization, it was very, very on point. Very advanced, I thought, for the time. So let me share screen and and then you'll see also our wonderful new logo. Can you see it, Aziz? Okay. Can you hear it? Women screaming. Yeah, so that was basically that was a snippet of the OD5 routine, and again, I personally was blown away. I don't know how you felt when you first saw them.
Yeah, I mean, I had not yet been exposed to like stepping outside of the Northeast corner, so that was new, and I was very amazed that they were that good. Like I knew the Black Greeks were very good because they've had years of building up their routines, but I had never thought that a multicultural or Latino org was going to be almost like ahead of what we had seen already in New York. So it was exciting to know that there was talent out there, and I just remember thinking like, man, if we didn't know about these guys when we were doing our stuff, like who else don't we know about? We were talking about like remember the unknown Sigma team that would show up in the Northeast to random step shows, and we used to talk about that. We used to talk about it a lot.
Wait, say it again. Say what?
There was a Sigma team called the Unknown Team, and you and I, we used to speculate because we had never seen them, so we always used to speculate. Like, imagine if there was an unknown Latino team out there that was.
I think we had even discussed inserting one of those unknown teams.
Yeah.
The issue with the unknown team is that yes, you can put a team together, but in theory though, the unknown sigmas, they're known. We know they're sigmas. We just don't know the individuals. But like,
Yeah.
it should really be the unknown team. Like, you don't know what org they're in, and
Right.
you know that would be really cool if an unknown team was like beating everyone, and no one knew where they were from or who. But that would be funny.
Yeah, I remember how we used to have those moments where we were just like, maybe it was over a beer or something, where we just talk about like, could you imagine if this happened or if that happened? And yeah, the unknowns were a random variable. And we even talked about what if LUL went into a show and didn't wear letters, didn't wear colors, but they just showed up and took it, you know. So
I remember that a lot actually, and I remember talking and trying to in my head trying to get that off the ground, but yeah. Anyway, all right. So sorry, we digress. Omega Delta Phi. So all right, we're starting again. The fraternities that participated in the 2003 Houston qualifying show for the 2003 National Championship. Alpha Psi Lambda, Omega Delta Phi, Lambda Upsilon Lambda, Sigma Lambda Beta of Texas, and that specifically they're a University of Houston Central Campus, I want to say. Yeah, they're Central Campus. On the sorority side, we had Kappa Delta Chi, Chi Epsilon Sigma, Gamma Alpha Omega, and then a special salute performance by Lambda Theta Phi. And then I see we wrote on our website, and you will also receive the show's commemorative program booklets with your order. So yeah, we were hemorrhaging money by printing these nice, beautiful booklets and in color. And remember the nice. I remember the egg. Our Albany show. It was green. I remember Al's design, and I remember the booklet. I'm like, I thought it was cool, but in theory, it's a huge hemorrhage of your cash. So if you're a startup, you don't want to do things like that. At least you do them maybe in the beginning and then you phase them out. So those were the teams. We shared screen and we showed you Omega Delta Phi, which again, they were super advanced for that time. They were the best Latino or multicultural team I had seen, and there was no team, no LUL, no LSU was going to touch these guys in terms of stepping, like pure step. Yeah, so the shows at a club. So the Roxy is actually a nightclub. You know, it's a decent venue. It was a good size. They had a stage. I remember the show was well attended. It was decently attended. It wasn't like phenomenal, but you know, the venue was, you know, like a medium-sized club, not too small, not too big. And then I guess we'll just go straight to, because I was trying to look on YouTube if there were any like Latino step Omega Delta Phi, videos. I found the one of the OD5, but I didn't do a KD Chi, Kappa Delta Chi. Actually, I wanted to mention Kappa Delta Chi. So in the Northeast, I don't know about now, but back in 03, they were not in the Northeast. So when we discovered Kappa Delta Chi, they're pretty sizable in Texas, and they're like a very big organization there. So I remember, us working with them, and that was great because they have a lot of sisters, and they had a pretty good team as well. And then the Gamma Alpha Omega team. Oh man, I'm remembering the girl now. The girl, do you remember her name?
Monica, was it maybe? Or Millie?
No, you're thinking Millie Garzone, Kappa Delta Chi.
Yeah,
she was Kappa Delta Chi of U of H, I think. Yeah, and we should give a shout out to Millie Garzone, Kappa Delta Chi. She was very helpful for us at our college tours, helping us coordinate our events for our step shows, and also being very instrumental in getting a lot of the KD Kais to participate. So thank you, Millie. Gamma Alpha Omega from University of Houston. There was a young lady we used to work with, and I can see her face, but I just can't remember her name, so I apologize. She was super helpful as well. Chi Epsilon Sigma from University of Texas A&M. I thought, even at the time, I thought that was an odd location for a Chi Epsilon Sigma team in Texas, but they worked. They were decent. They were formidable. They were. You wanted to jump in?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say with this show, what was happening is that now a lot of the organizations from the Northeast were telling their brothers and sisters across the map, that Latino Step is doing this multi-city tour. They were talking about us, so I'd say that Chi Upsilon Sigma and even our LUL team that performed at this show, the only reason they did it was because their brothers, they had seen their brothers or sisters do it before them at another event. So I think that our reputation was really starting to expand in a good way. And this show really did that for us. Do you remember if the group that was with Mo Daddy Night Gear, were they involved in this year's event? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
No.
I forgot. We were doing stuff with, that was OD5, right? That was Mega Delta Phi?
Night Gear. They were called Night Gear. It was Mo Daddy and
Yeah,
other guy.
we were working with Mo and them before we merged, and I don't think after we merged if we really did much with them.
I see. Okay.
And I don't even remember the Night Gear being helpful in anything in particular. Were they, or am I forgetting? Misremembering?
It might have been just talk. So,
got it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So, without further ado, we'll tell you the winners of the Houston show. On the fraternity side, again, without no surprise, Omega Delta Phi won the step show. Second place was Sigma Lambda Beta from University of Houston. Their contact person was a nice guy. Was it Raul or Garcia? Was it Raul the first name?
I think that was Alpha Psi Lambda was Raul.
All right. Well, there was a nice guy that we used to work with at University of Houston. Someone says his name, I'll remember it. He was a nice guy. They came in second. And then our LUL team, which I begged them to participate out of Our Lady of the Lake University, came in third. They aren't steppers. They were just doing it to try to represent, and they get a for effort, 100%.
Was that Eloise and
yeah, Eloise Vecina.
Yeah, good guy.
It was only three guys too that stepped for LUL. And for the sororities, first place Kappa Delta Chi, University of Texas Arlington, so that's appropriate. Second place was Gamma Alpha Omega, University of Houston, and then third place was Chi Upsilon Sigma, UT A&M. So that was Houston, yeah.
Yeah, and I think what we did differently this year, if I'm remembering correctly, is the winners would either get $1,000 applied to a flight to New York finals, or they'd get $750 if they took the money right away. So we were really trying to incentivize them to come to New York for the championship, but we just couldn't afford to foot the whole bill anymore, so we started to switch it up that way. But yeah, it was a good show. I remember OD5 when they won, they just they weren't crazy. Like the crowd was very pro OD5, very pro Katie Kai. So yeah, when I saw the results, because I used to check the judging scorecards before anybody saw them, so I was like, oh man, this place is gonna explode when they see the winners.
As if there was gonna be a big surprise of them not winning. They were so good, But
yeah, true.
But again, Houston was good. We did a great show, great teams. Again, thanks to all the teams that have participated. Then we move on to Chicago in March, and in Chicago, what was interesting about Chicago was that the venue itself, it's called the Congress Theater. I don't know if the Congress Theater still exists, but it's actually an old school theater, a lot of seats, big dome, like when you go inside. It was old school place. And the participating people there, actually, Jesus, do you have that list in front of you?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. But yeah, and to talk about the Congress Theater, I know Prince played there 3 years after we did our show there, so it felt like, wow, we got a legitimate venue. But the performances of that show were Alpha Psi Lambda, Lambda Alpha Upsilon from New York. That was Starkey Bib, and then they flew in.
Yes. Did we fly? Did we pay for that?
I think we paid for a portion.
Yeah.
Probably. Sigma Lambda Beta from Texas also flew in for that one. They were really, so I remember there was some sort of, we couldn't get the Mideast at Sigma Lambda Beta team, so we flew in the Texas group, and that created a bit of
were
friction.
they yeah, why didn't SLB Northeast, did they not want to be in our show?
They weren't ready to perform because Frank had known them. Frank Valencia from our team had known Sigma Lambda Beta there, and they had worked with him in the past, but for some reason, I don't know if they had friction but they just were not going to participate for whatever reason. So
Yeah, I felt like there was something like there was a reason, like something like they were like not participating because of something happened.
yeah, and I
Be-
can't recall. I wish I could because that would probably be
That's
controversial,
okay.
edgy.
And then yeah, that's true. And then we were like, that's okay. We'll get your bros from Houston. Thanks, but no thanks.
That was pretty
Rhymy?
uh arrogant of us to say, you know what, you're not performing, fine, we're gonna go with your same brothers from a different chapter. We're gonna fly them in and good luck. um but yeah,
Yeah.
so
But
that was
I actually don't think that the Sigma and Beta New York team was that good at the time. That their step team, I don't remember them. I never even heard of them, so they couldn't have been that good if we hadn't
yeah.
heard of that team. I don't think they had a team actually. To be honest, that's right. I don't think they had a team because Florida State, yes, they had a team, and I'm sure we would have asked. I'm surprised.
we
I
did
bet
we
you
did we did
they
I
couldn't
do
do it,
remember.
right?
I do
Yeah.
remember, yeah, they just couldn't do it,
Yeah.
right?
So the SLB Texas team was actually the runner-up team. They were the B plan, not the A plan.
But they still came through, so we gotta put some respect on the name, you know.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
So we had three fraternities; those were the three, and then we had three sororities, which were Omega Phi Beta, Lambda Tau Omega, and Lambda Pi Chi, with special stroll performances. So we have to basically get three Northeast.
And we
New
flew
York-
them in too. I remember.
Yeah, and then we had special local stroll performances. So it was interesting here. We hadn't yet formulated our stroll. We hadn't transitioned our company basically to stroll competition, but we had already started to include it in the stepping because we knew that local teams were going to be difficult. So we got Gamma Alpha Omega and Gamma Phi Omega as well to do strolls, and that was the Stacy Malacara team, and the Gamma Phi Omega, I believe, was the Monica Arango group as well. So yeah, it was a team show, which gave us enough to put something together. And
Yeah.
yeah, do you remember stuff from like the stage side and the execution of the event?
I remember that the location of the dressing rooms and the stage was like very out of the way, and it was like tunnels. So you had to go downstairs in a tunnel, and it was very impractical for for the show itself. It was just a huge theater. Like I know we didn't fill it out or sell it out for sure, but it was a nice theater. Other than that, I can read the winners of the show. So basically, on the fraternity side, Lambda Alpha Upsilon won first place for Chicago, which meant that they were going to be in our July final show. Second place, Sigma and Beta from Houston. Yep. And then third place, Alpha Psi Lambda. On the sorority side, Omega Phi Beta won. Second place, Lambda Pi Chi from New York. Third place, Lambda Tau Omega. Now, on the stepping side, do you remember any controversy with the scoring? And like, I'm sure Lambda Pi Chi complained about not winning first place and OPB beating them. That's 100% guaranteed.
No. I mean, well, from the fraternity side, no. LAU definitely outperformed. Like they were up against, the Texas Sigma and Beta team, which was the B squad, and then they were against Alpha Psi Lambda, which was just a hodgepodge of synchronization challenges.
So we gave them a layup. We gave them a layup basically. The LAU
LAU
team.
had, like, if they didn't win this one, they didn't deserve to be in the New York show. But Starkey and their team, they had experienced our show before, so they had already faced some steeper competition. So this should have been a layup, and they definitely slammed it down. But
S.Bib, respect that, man.
yeah.
So no controversy. Omega Phi Beta, Lambda Pi Chi, LTO
No, and on the
scoring.
sorority side, I felt like it was good for our business because Omega Phi Beta winning that show finally. Like I remember, it was about 3 or 4 shows in a row that Omega Phi Beta lost, and so they were starting to get heated because they felt they were much
They were the
better.
best.
Yeah, they felt
Yeah.
they were much better than what was being represented in our show, and so so the other shows they would come to us and really try to understand what's going on. We step hard, blah blah blah. Why are we not winning? And it came down to the judging, and so this time around, the judging got it right in their mind. And
Do you remember? Do you happen to remember judging wise? Like, were you throwing out the highest and the lowest scores? Were
not
you?
at that time yet. Not at that time.
So you were doing everyone.
We were close. We were close though, but yeah, that was still all judges considered, and
Yeah. So yeah, so we were tweaking things along the way, which is always helpful. So moving on to the next show that year, we was so March Chicago, and then right the next month we go to Albany, New York, which the Egg Theater is a really amazing theater, and I'm going to do a Google search so I can show our listeners or our viewers actually, because if you're listening, you won't be able. How nice that is. So yeah, so then inside, we're showing some of the inside. The theater was really, really nice. Um, There's another shot of the egg. I like to see the top of the egg. But yeah, the inside was like state of the art, amazing facility. And I remember the price being like very moderately priced. And I was like so surprised, like, wow, like this place is really affordable. But again, it was in Albany. So, I mean, Albany's not like a huge city. Um, and there's this picture. And then this one, you can see the top kind of a little better. Yeah, the top of the dome.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, you want to jump in?
In retrospect, like that actually feels like one of the nicer venues we used. It was smaller, but it was still intimate and very well set up for what we were doing.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, they had different theaters in that egg that basically you can decide, like what theater size you needed. So that's very helpful. Very cool. Another. Oh, here's a shot from an aerial shot of the egg. Okay, it's like a little domey on top.
Yeah.
All right. So we're done sharing here. So we're basically we're at the egg in Albany. So I believe this is where Beta Kappa Psi does a 3-man, right?
Yeah.
A 3-man step routine, which in my head I was thinking, oh, it's can't be that good if it's like 3 men for some reason. Because everything I've seen before was like, a lot more people. So Beta Kappa Psi. Here, why don't you
Yeah. I was gonna
share
say
a little bit while I look?
I was gonna say that it might have even been 2 men, because I know the legendary O'Day Hoppy, who ended up in the LS Hall of Fame years later. But O'Day was just this jumping super, like he had like a trampoline in his shoes. Like this guy
Mhm.
jumps super high, and that was one of the gimmicks of their step show.
That's right.
And forgive me for using the word gimmick. I know it's a critical part of their effort, but we only had two fraternities in this year's show, in this particular show at the Ag, which was I know it was concerning for our team at LACCOM because we were the Northeast guys, and then we only had two frats. But it was also, we were understanding that stepping again was a much more complicated show to put on. So getting people to kind of renew and rebuild new shows every year was a bit more difficult than we had come to know. And then we also had step performances on the sorority side, from Chi Upsilon Sigma, Lambda Pi Upsilon, Mu Sigma Upsilon, and Stroll performances by Lambda Pi Chi, LUL, and Omega Phi Beta as well. So again, we were including the Stroll because we realized that we can't get enough step teams to put on a
Right.
real kind of full show.
I actually found a clip of Beta Kappa Psi.
Doing the job.
It's not at our show, but it's kind of what they were doing, and
Yeah.
it's actually from what year? I'm trying to find when this was uploaded. It doesn't even say. But I'm gonna share it so you guys, the viewers, can see the type of and it's Ode Hoppy, so it's the man himself, the legend. And here we go. There we go. What you think, Jesus?
Man, that guy was crisp, like with his stepping. I remember at the egg, what made it even a better jump was that their team member stood right at the end of the stage, and so O'Day ran to the back of the egg stage, and then jumped over his teammate, flew
Onto
over
the
him.
floor, right?
Right. He landed on the floor, so it looked even higher. Like he looked even more Superman.
That's a crazy jump. Like if I did that at this age, I would break some ankles. I would chip some more bones in my knees. So Beta BK Psi, I'm looking. No, I'm looking for that 3-man O'Day show. But basically, that routine is basically what they were doing at the time, and O'Day killed it with. It was either 3 or 2 people. They did a very awesome routine with 3 people. All right. So did you go through everyone that participated?
Yeah, we went through the
Yeah.
orgs.
So to recap, the Albany venue was amazing. The Egg, it's a really nice theater if you ever need to do something of that nature. And then the winners of the teams, there were only 2 fraternities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Beta Kappa Psi, the 2-man team beat LUL. I don't remember what LUL team we had. Do you remember?
Probably the local team. It was the
Yeah,
Northeast.
I don't remember. And then on the sorority side, there was Chi Upsilon Sigma, Lambda Pi Upsilon, and Mu Sigma Upsilon. Sorry, so Chi Upsilon Sigma won first place, Lambda Pi Upsilon won second place, Mu Sigma Upsilon wins third place. And then Beta Kappa Psi qualifies for the July show. Chi Upsilon Sigma qualifies. Was I don't remember which Chi Upsilon Sigma team this was, but it was the step team. And then Mu Sigma Upsilon wins third.
Yeah, I remember the Cuz team. That was it was the dream team there. I mean, for them, like Vanessa Peralta, Maxine, Negron, Janine, Burton, um, Colon. Like they had a really good group of girls that
Wow, you
were.
remember that whole team by name, first and last. That's
Yeah, no,
interesting.
they were good. I remember we did this. Oh, okay. The egg was it just hit me. The egg was the first show where we started doing interviews beforehand. Remember we started recording with
Yeah.
the step teams, and we had them talking about what they were about to do, perform, and we started putting that on the website, which was different. Like nobody else was doing pregame interviews. And actually, let's take a step back. And I don't think you and I talked about this a lot, but a lot of the great things we did were from sports. Like we would find
Yes. Yes, I do
great,
remember.
like, so pregame interviews was something sports were doing, and that's something we started doing, and so along with, like the way we judge, everything we were doing, there was some metaphor in sports that we were borrowing from. So so those pregame interviews, we started posting them on our website, which was different. Like there was no other show doing this, and I remember that was a popular feature that people look forward to. Like, wait, are we going to do our interviews? Um, and so, do you remember? Do you remember that, or?
Yeah. I do vaguely remember the um the actual us interviewing them. I'm actually on YouTube now again looking to see if I think we may have
Yeah,
like videos of that interview. So let me quickly see what
yeah,
I can dig up.
and we have some archives, I think, of the egg. Like not only, and we did a photo shoot as well. I mean,
We did?
we had done photo shoots before the egg, but this was not only the first time we were doing photo shoots and videos beforehand. So we were starting to build up our and I remember Al, who was our designer, asked, because he was now part of the team, so he was able to help with a portion of that. And so we had a new teammate who could extend what we were doing and the coverage. And Al was looking for flyer material, stuff he could use. But an interesting thing happened in 2003, Anthony. I don't know if you remember it. The way we had set up this competition was you had to qualify for the finals. And so the challenge we faced was that LUL and LSU, who were big teams in the Northeast in New York and had partook in prior shows, they had not qualified in any of the shows. I remember we were trying to figure out ways that we could make them qualify.
Who was that? Which team was that?
LUL and LSU, who we needed. Like, we had all the right sororities qualified.
This is for this year.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we were like, how do we get LUL, LSU qualified, or how do we pre-qualify them? You know, so we didn't end up doing anything suspicious or lines, but the one thing we did offer was we offered to.
How did we do it? How did we?
They just so LSU and SLG, who had won a year ago, we pre-qualified them based on the fact that they won the year before.
They were defending champs, right?
Yeah, defending champs clause, and so outside of that, we didn't pre-qualify LUL, so they weren't going to be a part of this year's New York show. Which I remember we were like, "Is that gonna?
That's impossible.
Is that going to be a problem for?" Because we had just been acquired, so now we're part of a team that's expecting a gigantic New York City summer show, and we are missing the most important for us, the most important organization that can draw great crowds. But so as we came to learn later, that wasn't going to be a terrible thing for us. Like, it would actually help us in future years, but that year it just felt like the world was
Wait,
crumbling.
So LUL did not perform in
2003
because they didn't qualify?
Because they didn't qualify, and we couldn't, there was no clause we could manipulate that would have allowed them to.
And why didn't because they so they lost to Beta Kappa. Wow, I don't remember that. You actually remember them not qualifying?
Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay. So that's the Albany show. The highlights was Albany show highlights. Beta Kappa Psi, 2-man show, or it was a 2 or 3 guys. Ode Happy jumps from on stage over the shoulders of one of his bros and lands off stage onto down by the seating area. That was amazing. So I guess that's why they won. He sealed it with that jump, the jump move.